Hi, I'm Shannon Corrigan, the Marketing Director for WorkMax by About Time Technologies. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, the 4 must-have job costing features to improve project performance. It's being presented today by Tom Greco, Regional Sales Manager for Foundation Software, and Mike Merrill, our WorkMax by About Time Technologies COO. So without any further ado, let's get started, Mike.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate your help today and appreciate Tom and the Foundation crew for joining us on this joint technology partner webinar. We're going to talk today about the 4 job costing must-haves to improve project performance. So the first thing is, and this could be surprising to some, not so much to me, 80% of construction projects end up coming in basically over budget. And so that means we're spending more time and more money accomplishing what we had planned and estimated that we were going to do. So this is according to a study by McKinsey Global Institute. Another statistic that we have from our WorkMax 2020, so this is very fresh, hot off the presses this last month or so, live field data usage report, and we found that 66% of contractors are still utilizing paper and spreadsheets to be accurate. And so that's still a little bit surprising to me today with technology the way that it is, and with the mobile solutions and mobility, connectivity, all of those things that we have, cloud-based software, that visibility is lacking. Many other industries have done a better job of adopting these types of technologies in construction. So we have some work to do. We're moving the needle, but again, there's a long ways to go. So 2/3 of the businesses out there are still leaning on their paper or spreadsheet addiction. A little background about our company. So we were founded in 2003. By 2005, we actually had a product out, and it was on the Palm OS platform. So very old school technology. I think you can see one of these at the museum down the street at this point. Those were called PDAs, Personal Digital Assistants. Originally, they had no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth. It was literally a cable sync of the device into the server, and that was how we synchronized the initial data we were collecting. So we were a much better piece of paper back then. But as you can see on the timeline, BlackBerry came onto the scene with the Storm, and with their Direct Connect technology and email technology, they really opened up a whole new world of communication for construction. So we leveraged that, and we were successful at garnering lots of large customers and companies all over that were trying to innovate and get that advantage over their competition. Quickly from there, as you can see, Android and Apple came onto the scene in 2009, and we continued to innovate and add other parts of our solution to the platform. But what we started finding in about 2014 is customers were asking, do you have anything that is web-based? Do you have a cloud-based solution that we can get to from anywhere, from my hotel or from a desk or from the road at the airport, wherever they have connectivity? And so we felt like it was a good time for us to kind of reinvent what we were doing and learn from the thousands of customers we had already worked with and partnered with as their technology solution. And we rebuilt from the ground up a full web-based platform called WorkMax. So WorkMax is a cloud platform solution, and that is hosted on Amazon Web Services. So completely and true web-based software. All right, so that's the background. So the agenda today, we're going to talk about how we're going to keep projects on time and under budget. We're also going to talk about how we're getting the right data to the right people. We want to capture production and accurate job progress, not just hours, but also units put in place, et cetera. And then in the end, once all of that is done, the prize at the bottom of the Cracker Jack box that everybody's after is we want to get that data into your foundation software. We want to get it into the ERP. We want to turbocharge that powerful engine that you already have and make it even better. Some of the challenges in doing that, of course, with companies that we work with and we talk to every day, resources are scattered. You got people everywhere. It's like herding cats. Systems are disconnected. They're not talking to one another. Again, Excel is a dead system. It is a lifeless spreadsheet system that, again, does not have that interactive connectivity and integration that companies like to see. Paper, of course, is way worse. Of course, because of those challenges, the data is inaccurate. That's a real challenge, and that's something that we want to really help companies to achieve very, very quickly. And then, of course, once the data is in the office, whether it's paper, spreadsheets, or whatever form or fashion, we want to feed that into Foundation and into your payroll system so that, again, you're having a true integrated experience where there's visibility from the field to the office, from the office to the field, and everybody's on the same page all the time. One of the other advantages of doing this is with a system like WorkMax, you have complete visibility. Where are my people? Which projects are ahead, which are behind? We want to help you right-size that labor staffing so that you've got the right quantity of employees on the right projects. You're not top-heavy on one job and 2 men short on another. So this visibility will allow you to make those decisions very quickly. Now, of course, again, we're on this joint technology partner webinar with Foundation. We want to feed all that data that we've collected back into Foundation, back into payroll for construction. We want to get this automated. One of the other special things that we've done, and we've worked with Foundation for well over a decade, we have true database connection. So we're pulling all of their jobs, projects, cost codes, phases, equipment, et cetera, automatically. So our system can be set up to run that connection and pull in any updates, make any adjustments to the database so that when it pushes it out to the mobile devices, they're seeing the right information all of the time, either on demand or on a scheduled basis as quickly as the databases connect. So very forward thinking and progressive as far as, again, moving that data to where you really want it to be at the end of the day. One of the things that we do very well, and that has been a request since the day we started, and that is having a better biometric solution. In the early days, we had a finger reader that was plugged into a laptop, but it had to be USB, so then it was Windows-based, and then there had to be an air card, and I mean, there were all these different reasons why it was a challenge. And what customers said is, we want facial recognition on the same device that they're logging time. And so what we did is we wrote true facial recognition technology, an algorithm that's comparing the face between the image and the individual, and actually do that comparison in an automated fashion. Does it meet the grade or not? Does it pass the threshold of successful or not? If not, we're going to bring it to your attention and flag that record so that you can manage those exceptions and not have to hunt and peck through data to find or visually compare images to people that maybe the office staff isn't necessarily familiar with all of the fields. So the other thing, while we're gathering facial recognition, we're also gathering their GPS location stamp. Where are they physically in relation to the job site? Now, in this case, my screen grab, I've got 0.6 miles away from the job site on this punch. And in this case, if my radius is a 1/4 mile or whatever it is, you can see the red outline of the job. I'll show you this in the live software in a little bit, but very intuitive, very smart, the way that it's been done. And again, it's to save you time and to give you visibility immediately, so you can make actionable decisions on demand. On the facial recognition, what happens is we actually have a comparison and a threshold score that you set as an organization and say, this is 85%. I've got a 98, 97% match with those images here. So this passes no problem. As you'll see on the line here, no red alerts like on these other lines. And I'll drill into the software and show you what those look like specifically. Aside from making sure you got the right people at the right place, confirming all of that data, we want to have the ability for them to put quantities in. So we can flag this quantity tracking prompt when a cost code requires unit entry. So as they go throughout the day and complete something, they can put those totals in. Now, if for some reason you don't want them to do that until the end of the day or the end of the week, that's fine. They can always go back into the system and add those quantities later. But we want to prompt them if that's a workflow that makes sense for you. Nothing is nearly as accurate when it's estimated or guesstimated or pencil whipped at the end of the day or the end of the week, when again, sometimes you can't remember where you had lunch 2 days ago. So we just want to give those tools right at their fingertips on demand in real time. The other thing, and you'll notice here, I'm clocked in on this device. I'm at the Salem Elementary School. I'm doing concrete work here. I've left a note for the office. I need 8 more yards of 6.5 bag concrete at 4 p.m. today. So that note comes in with the time and the labor and the GPS and all that other data. for the admin or project manager or superintendent, whoever needs visibility into that message. But you'll notice here as we zoom in, I've got specific cost codes, phases, other data that is tied to that project. So because we're connected to Foundation directly, our system has additional filters so that we can restrict the view of those projects or cost codes or phases to the right people and the right divisions, the right crews, the right company. So whatever your setup is, we're going to mirror and match that and then push that out to the field appropriately. So they're always only ever picking from the correct list and the right data. You can have complete confidence in the data that you collect in WorkMax because we've done everything to make sure they're looking at the right stuff that pertains to them. The other thing with knowing what's going on in visibility, in our forms module, which is another part of the platform, additional to time, we have the ability to take photos and answer questions. So in this particular case, I've got a cracked area of concrete on the runway. I want to fill out this form, leave a note. Again, that gets synchronized to the cloud. The office has visibility into that form. These forms can be exported, they can be auto-emailed, they can be routed to the right people when they're submitted, etc. So not only are we collecting that data, but we're sharing it with the right people as needed. This form solution is the most capable out in the marketplace, especially in our construction sector. And the nice thing is it's coupled with time on the platform. So as I'll show you in a minute, we can trigger those forms based on a clock in or a clock out if we need to ask COVID questions or safety questions, etc. Like I see on the screen here, this is a clock out prompt or questionnaire. Were there any injuries on the job? No. Did you take your breaks? Yes. Are you feeling any COVID symptoms? No. If the answer was yes, I could launch a COVID questionnaire form that's specific. Which symptoms are you feeling? When did you start feeling them? Who else were you working with, etc. Because we have GPS, geofence, and biometrics, we can pull up a job report for that day or that week or that time period where they may have had contact with other staff, and in seconds we know exactly who really ought to go get tested and make sure that they're either quarantining or properly dealing with that potential COVID issue and risk. Aside from time and forms and the safety items and other things that we can fill out, we also are able to track your equipment. We are connected to Foundation's equipment database, so we're able to pull all of the equipment in from there. If you happen to have it in a spreadsheet or somewhere else, we can populate our database from there, but from that point on, you can manage all that data right within WorkMax. Again, just like forms, when an employee clocks into trenching, they can pick the equipment they're using for that trenching, and the system will prompt them to do that. So it can be done on demand, or like this shows kind of an after the fact, we call it an equipment usage sheet. It's kind of like a digital timesheet for your assets or your tools. So you can fill that out after the fact at the end of the day or the week or even the month if that's what's appropriate for your tracking needs. So these are all options for you. And essentially, we're automating the tracking. We're reducing that loss of stolen or misplaced equipment, showing you where it is all the time, where it was last used, who had it. And then, of course, the last thing is we track equipment, whether it's owned or rented, and then also where it's at physically and how long it's been there. Maintenance, when is the maintenance due on it? What was the odometer or tachometer reading, etc. So we're optimizing your utilization of that equipment so you're not renting additional pieces, you're not driving all the way across town or to another city to pick up a track hoe when you have one 3 blocks down the road, but nobody knew. All right, so high level to just kind of rein it all back in, our connection to Foundation's database, we're pulling all of that data, we're sharing it with WorkMax, we're collecting it, we're pushing it back, we're giving Foundation that visibility. So those reports, that data that you rely on and depend on every day today is going to be better, quicker, and more accurate. It's going to be live field data from the source on demand as things happen. Now, we do have digital time entry and other after the fact tools if that fits your business. Some companies, that's the way they want to run. They want a better spreadsheet. We have that as settings and options also, so you don't have to necessarily punch in and out in real time. However, we have that capability and do a great job of giving you that, including any rounding rules or other things that you need to do to manage that time, shift work, overtime, union, per diem, certified payroll, Davis-Bacon. All of those factors we take into consideration with the time units that we collect So when we pass them to foundation or to payroll for construction, you're getting exactly the right rates for each of those units of time. Everything's automated and everything's managed ultimately in your foundation or payroll for construction system. All right, with that, I'm going to bring up my mobile device, and what I have here is, all right, so this is an emulator of my iPad, and essentially what we have here is our mobile application. If I just come back here, nice and easy, I put a PIN number in. This is the same as an ATM PIN screen. Very familiar to your guys. They know how to get money out. This is their new ATM as it relates to the job site. So Wesley Roberts has time clock, time review, equipment, and forms options. He's going to clock in. You'll notice here's the project that he's on. He's able to click on that top there and actually put which project he's on if it changed. So I'm going to say I'm at the Payson City Center, and when I clock in, what Wesley's going to see is a list of those cost codes or phases, but he can't until he fills out this initial form. This one is a COVID safety form before he punches in. So yes, I'm feeling healthy and well. No, I do not have any of these symptoms. And then you'll see here I have in blue a link. If I click that link, you'll actually get launched out to an external location, potentially. This one's on YouTube. It's on social distancing for COVID-19. So we're able to leverage other tools and other data from our app right from their device. I'm going to say, yes, I watched that video, or I can have another option, yes or no, for a toggle, yes, I saw it. Now I have to sign off and affirm that I actually did that. Now, as soon as I hit save, what you're going to notice is now I can pick my cost code. So it is not letting me start my shift until I have answered those questions. That's a workflow that we can require in the app. And so that's a control that you can have from the office without having to be concerned about people not filling out paperwork or not answering the proper safety questions. So let's say I'm doing reinforcement work, and now you'll see in the top left is my image. I can clock in, and it captures my biometric profile. The GPS stamp occurred, and what also happened behind the scenes, I have it triggered to automatically send this COVID questionnaire. So what you'll notice here, here's my answers, the signature, but even more compelling as far as affirming where somebody was when they did this form or completed it. I've got a GPS pin of physically where I'm at when the form was submitted. So I have complete confidence in this data. And again, this can be auto-emailed to safety managers, safety directors, HR, owners, foreman, superintendent, whoever needs to see a copy of this, they are automatically copied on a PDF email and have that visibility. I'm going to come back to the clock. Now the other thing, Wesley clocked in. Let's say it's the end of the day or lunch, he's going to clock out. You'll see he's on the same project. I hit the out button. Now what you're going to see, different from the other form, is a feedback or injury and break attestation form. So there were no injuries. Yes, I took my breaks, and no, I'm not feeling any symptoms. Now, again, if I said, yes, I'm feeling symptoms, I'm going to get a questionnaire similar to the one I filled out at the beginning, which is what symptoms are you feeling, etc. All that data that you need to know so that you can appropriately notify those who may be affected by that. Again, I have to sign this off. Now it lets me clock out. You'll also notice here, I can fill out a note. I can do voice to text if I click this and order more concrete, or give a message to the office about something. Hit confirm. And again, I confirm my location. I have my GPS. Everything is automated. It's pushed up to the cloud. There's visibility. Everybody knows the deal, what's going on, where people are at, etc. Now, because we're doing this, one of the other things that we can do, we have the ability to have report like a roll call report. So tell me where all my staff is at physically, what time they got there, what they're working on. And then at the bottom, I have an absentee list. So not only are we managing the labor that's there and where they're at, what they're doing, but who's not here and when was the last time that they were clocked in and what were they working on at that time, steel erection. and it was this, the day prior or the week prior, whenever the last time that they had a punch in the system was. So lots of options for visibility that are tied to not only production and management of payroll data and labor, but other things that are even more important for safety and managing the workflow, HR aspects of the business. A couple of other very quick things on the mobile app. I put 2222 in, and I have Carlos. Carlos Montoya prefers Spanish to be his primary language in the app. So he's able to navigate, clock in, all the entrar and salir instead of in and out, etc. So all the navigation for him will be in Spanish. The other option, I've got a foreman or a crew leader. He can come in here and pick from multiple other employees that are on the clock with him. Carlos, or let's say Alberto and Eric and Peter are now all with him of this parking lot project when we clock in. Again, in this particular case, I set it up specifically to not bring up the COVID form. So you don't have to do that. It's an option you can enable and a workflow that you can kind of enforce. So in this case, we're all working on form work. Here's the crew. We're all here at once. I clock in. That's a common workflow for a lot of companies. The other option, of course, is we have the timesheet. Now, on a timesheet, similar, we pick the guys that we're working with from a list. I hit next. I can copy from a different timesheet from another day. If I want, let's say here, let's see, let me do 8.20, it's August 20th. And now it brings up that crew that I selected. Here's their times. Maybe Alberto got there a little early, Donnie a little late, whatever. So you can make those adjustments if you need to right here. And then again, to the right here, we can sign off. Those signatures follow the app all the way through. You see he's got a check mark here as a foreman or manager. I can sign off. Both of those signatures come in. So that timesheet can be done after the fact or on demand. We can break it up to different shifts or phases or crews, etc. But very simple, looks similar to what Excel might be, but just another workflow option that you can invoke in the application. Now let's say you want to review those real-time punches. We're just going to go into time review and hit clock entries. And you'll see here's all the ins and the outs for that day. If I click my little clock down here, it will consolidate them into shifts. Now this one, Alberto, we just did a punch. He's got an in, but no out yet. That's why it's kind of a pending record. There's no total. But the rest of these, the shift was completed this morning, so everything's there and available. And again, Wesley here has the ability to review his time as long as, again, it's then logged in the application, whether it's by him or by his foreman. So all of those signatures, all that data accompanies those records when they get synchronized up to the cloud. Now, the other thing, we kind of filled out some forms. There's other options we can do for forms. Of course, we had COVID stuff, but I've got safety or accident, injury or breaks, per diem, daily field log report, other data that we can collect. Again, they're all unique based on injury or accident. I'm going to fill this form out. I can attribute that form to a project or a cost code or whatever it is. It's safety related. Now it puts that and ties that to it. I hit. Now I've got which part was injured, signatures, photos, other things. Again, all of this data gets automatically emailed to HR, safety, and everybody else who needs to see it. And so whether it's a daily field log report like this one, taking photos of the concrete work, the crew, conditions, weather, again, just an additional potential project management or a supplemental project management tool within the same application, triggered forms that get auto-routed to those staff that need to see them. It's a very nice addition to just tracking time and labor and cost coding, giving complete visibility to the office in real time, helping you control those job costs from their mobile application, on demand, as needed, etc. So the other option here is I have the equipment use. So on equipment, I can say I'm doing assignment, and I can look at where certain pieces of equipment are at. Let me just pull them up on the mobile application. Apologies. So back here, the equipment menu, I go to assignment. I click on all. You'll notice here at the top, I have barcoding, so I can barcode equipment if needed, if that's easier than the pick list. But here's where it was. I'm going to transfer this to, I can go back to inventory, or I can assign it to a new employee on the same project. It's Bill Owen, or maybe he's working on another job. He's at the library. So now I hit reassign. Now the application moves that equipment to Bill, and the office has complete visibility into where it was at. So you can see all the different pieces. That's one option. Again, we can also trigger equipment use on cost coding. They pick trenching, bring up the equipment list, what's he using. So I'll show you what those triggers are in what we call our control center here right now. So go back to the cloud system. This is what we call our time editor. So the time that's collected in WorkMax is all gathered here, and you'll see here's my approvals on the end. I've got employee and manager approvals on these records, etc. I have sign off in the office. I can add 2 more levels to this if I want. We've got triggers, again, pending record because there's an in but no out yet, so that's a flag. It won't be processed until there's an out. I can manually add that, or we can wait for the device to collect it. Now the red globe here for GPS is saying, hey, this was not in the geofence. Let's pull this record up here with Carlos and look at the GPS map. So here's his out punch, and he is 3.2 miles away from this job site. I can zoom in and see really, really closely where they're at physically, even within a parking lot or a building or a structure. So it's lots of visibility of where they are physically. The other thing, if I look at my facial recognition, I have here, here I am with a cute little Australian cowboy hat. I got my WorkMax cap on here, and then I've got, you know, a clearly different profile image that does not match. And so that's where that is flagged. When they do match, we get, again, that affirmation by the black globe and the black human icon here, dark color instead of red. You can see here's those images, they do match. Now what you'll also notice, my glasses here on the forehead, I've got a beard, I don't have one there. I'm still within 98.6% match of that image. So very accurate, hard hats, even PPE equipment. Those images can be updated on demand as needed. And so you're the one setting those thresholds. You're in control of what those are as a business. So in this case, I have a hard hat on for the image, no glasses on here. I'm a fraction of 1% of a match between those 3 images. So that threshold is custom to you. And also this facial recognition can be turned on or off by employee. So if you want certain crews or temps to have it on or nobody, you can just disable it, but it comes with the application, is included in just the standard cost. So that's what these alerts and triggers are and flags. Again, if I go back 1 week, I'm just going to step through what it might look like to process payroll before I pass the baton over to our friends at Foundation. So right here I have, I'm going to hit the go button. I've got my weekly payroll. Again, if I've got different payroll cycles or other things, I can set those up differently or uniquely. I hit the go button, it'll load up all those times. You'll notice these are in red. I have an alert. Anything over 10 hours, bring it up in red. I just want to see that, have it brought to my attention. So here's all those shifts, all the totals, the cost codes, etc. When I'm done reviewing this time, and if I come in, and I'll just come in as a manager here, and I'm going to make an adjustment or sign off on the time, whatever I need to do. I'm going to sign off as Office 1. You'll see date and time stamp, and also that's my login credential. And then when I save that, what you're going to see, the sign off 1 column will be populated with that check mark and a stamp that those records have been approved by admin 1 in the office. And so that's one other way that you can kind of have visibility into those approvals, making sure that the visibility's been there, that whoever needs to see those records in the office has reviewed them before they actually get processed and passed through the Foundation. Let me just refresh this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to complete what we call a batch, and what that means is we're going to process this data and and prepare it for a proper payroll. And so, let's let this come up here. All right, so here's my date range. Again, these are tied to either payroll for construction or foundation, or what period you want to look at. This one's weekly, Monday to Sunday, whatever. So I'm going to check these off, and I'm going to process them in what we call a batch. Now, when I batch these, there's 76 shift records. I hit batch. If there's any errors, any issues, anything that's a problem with the data, it will bring it up in red and bring it to my attention. There will be a flag that batch on those certain records didn't run. But everything that was good and valid will process properly, and we'll actually see that in a column that we call batch records. Again, all this data collected remotely in the field, on demand, without the issue of recreating or trying to remember the time. Once that data is batched and goes into what we call our tool ConnectMax, this connector pulls that data into a format that will go into Foundation. And so when I click on, all I have to do is, I've already reviewed and closed that timeout or batched it. And so at this point, all I'm left to do is hit the export button. And what that does is creates a file like this that is saved into the Foundation folder and gives you that payroll data broken up properly, all the overtime, all the shift work, anything that was, any rules that applied to that time data will then have been applied and passed off to the Foundation system or payroll for construction. Now, in that connection tool, again, it can be formatted uniquely. So if you're doing something different with divisions, et cetera, you have the complete control over what those exports and those formats look like from the data that we've taken from the WorkMax system. So with that, I'm going to pass the baton over to our friends at Foundation. Tom Greco is I think, anxious and ready to get things moving. So Tom, I just pass presenter to you. Again, if you have any questions, please type those in and we'll try and get to those at the very end and answer as many of those as we can.
Thank you, Mike. We are very excited to be part of today's webinar on the 4 job costing must-haves to improve project performance. Definitely excited about the opportunity to showcase 2 best-of-breed solutions that can definitely help construction companies become more efficient in the field as well as in the office. And with my screen shown here, I want to circle back to one of the important statistics that you had mentioned in the beginning of your presentation. One of the big eye-opening things that I saw was that 80% of large construction projects are over budget. And a lot of that deals with, like you had mentioned, you know, paper going back and forth, using spreadsheets, using solutions that, you know, really aren't up to date as far as technology, or, you know, some people don't even know that solutions like WorkMax and Foundation even exist, right? So very tough for them to know that their process is wrong, or, hey, why do we keep missing out on these jobs, or why do we keep going over budget? And definitely, you know, what you presented with the field entry information and the ability to integrate 2 systems is going to greatly increase the efficiency between 2 great products. And what I see a lot is, you know, those disjointed procedures or those disjointed functions. And, you know, just to kind of talk a little bit about that, you know, with the system here, we are a fully integrated job cost accounting solution. So everything we do is construction specific. And, you know, one of those big ways to increase efficiency is making sure that, you know, like you said, we're ahead of the curve when it comes to knowing that our jobs are even being close to over budget, or, hey, even knowing where I'm at today in job cost, where you're minimizing time entry from the field, which is, you know, a great efficiency tool. It's going to definitely make payroll's life very easy, as well as get that information into whatever solution that they're using so that they can have those metrics to take a look at. And with the export import, you know, it's one of the things that even, you know, with us, it's going to be very flexible to build in here. You know, we utilize a nice tool in here called the Time Card Genie, which would allow you to match that import directly to WorkMax. And with that output file, we can bring it right into the system, bring it right into payroll, process the payroll fully. And once that payroll goes out the door, there is absolutely no need for you to do any type of spreadsheets or need to do any type of manual certifieds or manual job costing. Everything is real time. And just with the dashboard that you see here, 80% of construction projects go over budget. Well, why? Well, I didn't know. I didn't know I was even getting close to over budget. Somebody didn't update the spreadsheet. Let's eliminate all that and let's have a real-time solution that we can come in and see where our costs are at. Payroll being probably one of the most important costs of a business, especially in construction. I'm going to go ahead and minimize the dashboard, which we'll come back to, and we will talk about the import from WorkMax to Foundation. Now, what we want to do by utilizing both best-of-breed systems is eliminate the manual time card entry, right? That eliminates room for error. That eliminates Tom not turning his payroll in until Friday at the very end. And it also gets people accountable, right? And with the ability to import directly into Foundation from WorkMax, we leverage the time card genie to be able to come in and actually create an import that then we can take that file from WorkMax and bring it right into our software. It's an easy process. We map that with you during our implementation, where all I want to do is browse for that file and have that information drop right into my payroll process. Notice, everything's date specific, everything is employee specific, job cost specific, equipment specific. We can even expand on this. Mike had touched on production. So being able to enter in those quantities from the field, we can increase the different fields here, where we can capture that information and also have that pull into Foundation as well. So definitely a streamlined process from field to office. Now let's talk about payroll, right? It's everybody's favorite, and it's always going to be the thing that usually takes people the longest. Well, in Foundation, the ability to integrate the time card function will also speed up that process, as well as being able to do your direct deposits, your checks. Another thing that our clients really love is the ability to do certifieds, right? I talk to clients every day. They do government payroll, multi-rate, multi-state. We give you the ability to do every style or every type of certified payroll that you could think of. That's another thing that's going to increase the ability to eliminate time that's wasted on doing these manually. Same thing with the paper copies. With this time being fed, we want to streamline that whole process. I talk to clients all the time and, hey, my payroll takes me 4 days. 4 days is insane. It shouldn't take you 4 days to process a complete payroll. It should take you a day, maybe a day and a half max. And a big bottleneck in that process is also going to be the certified payroll, which we could do right out of the system based on the time cards that are entered in from WorkMax that are coded to that job. We're not only updating the job cost efficiency, but we're also going and doing more than that, giving you the ability to do these automated certifieds, track equipment, track quantities, production, which I'll show you some of those reports, as well as touch on other areas. A lot of people don't know really what their payroll costs them. So they can have an idea, maybe part of the burden is allocated, maybe some of it, maybe none of it. Maybe it's a manual process. Once again, we want to decrease that and provide you an ability to do it all. Be able to come into Foundation and see every dollar, every cent of payroll, where it's going, how much it's costing you, all your intercompany burdens like FICA, FUTA, SUTA, comp, fringes. We work with clients both that are union, non-union, prevailing wage, publics, privates. We do it all. And you are able to come in and actually see what your payroll is costing you. So on the Interstate 79 job, I know my loaded number is going to be $25.54. And I'm able to get those metrics right out of the system. And it requires no double entry. Once again, no spreadsheets. So it's definitely, and if you look at the payroll process as a whole, utilizing WorkMax and Foundation together can really streamline the capturing from the field, as well as allowing that payroll person in the office to make their life easier and to provide all that information in real time. Now, just going back to that 80% of construction projects go over budget, payroll is definitely going to be an important piece. Same thing with equipment, same thing with inventory. But how do I get that information to the people who are, are needing to be reviewing this, are needing to know, hey, where are my jobs at? And that's the gap between accounting and project management, or accounting and the operations department. And that, I think, is one of the big things that allows a company to be way more efficient in construction and way more efficient in their job costing process. And the dashboard here is a great tool that would allow anybody with access to come in and see where their costs are at on their job in real time. I know where all my jobs are. If I had 100 jobs, I could scroll through all of them and see what percent complete I am. I don't want to be that company that constantly goes over budget, constantly doesn't know that, I'm over cost. I want to be proactive, more so than reactive, right? And I'm able to come in and see that information in real time. We want to make it very easy for people to then drill into specific projects just by double clicking and seeing pretty much everything that they have on a specific project, where I can monitor cost. I can monitor change orders. I can see every line item of billing, all my subcontracts, what's left out there on my subcontracts. So this is going to provide construction companies with the information that they need by making it a more efficient solution, more so than having to leverage those spreadsheets and constantly rely upon those to be what is really going on. As Mike coded the time in the field, it's always important that if we're looking to see where we're at on a job, but also see where everybody's performing, cost codes are going to be something that are going to be specific to a company, where not only do we want to know where the cost is, but hey, where are we making money, losing money? How far along are we on specific tasks or phases? That's going to be something that is definitely integrated with Workmax as well as Foundation. And, for example, earthwork here, we're able to see the whole picture of earthwork. And I'm able to just click on earthwork here and drill into all those categories. And that labor part's going to be extremely important. Same thing with the burden, the labor hours, all that's going to be fed by Workmax. And I'm able to then come in and, if I want to, get into those details, right? So this is going to be those time cards that were coded from Workmax, where field to office to reports, it's a pretty straight line and efficient process. I can also see the equipment cost here too. I can see any material dollars. I'm also able to drill in and get full visibility, right? So I don't want to have a report that shows me cost, but then how did that cost get there? Is it accurate? Did somebody do this? Is it not supposed to be here? We want to provide you with full visibility too, and that's going to greatly increase your ability to see those visual job costs and improve on your project performance. I'm able to even go as far as to drilling into the actual accounting entry, all the way down to the actual invoice that was entered. So if this was something that was miscoded, or this is something that I wasn't aware of, you can implement a nice workflow here too, where we can scan invoices, have people approve them, and we do that one time, where we don't have to constantly take that image and attach it to a folder, to my email, to the left, to the right. It's in one space. It's done one time, and those that need to see it can see it. So that's going to be something that definitely, allows companies or, contractors to be able to come in and see where their dollars are going. And, you'd hate to be, not aware of projects that are being under budget or over budget, where we can provide you also with alerts too. So the reports are excellent, but I also want to know, when my jobs are close to being over budget, over on specific cost codes, over on hours, or under. It's a great way to actually set up some automatic alerts, where these reports would be actually pushed out automatically via someone's email, where then they're well aware of where their jobs are at. And if a job does go over budget, they have that information wherever they're at, right? So everybody either has their email on their phone or their workstation. There should be no reason why we're not aware of what's going on. With the equipment side, being able to job cost that equipment. If you're using something that's an off-the-shelf system, something that's not construction specific, it's always going to be something that doesn't get back into that. It's one of the other items on the spreadsheet, or something that you don't really have a good gauge of where your equipment costs are at. Where Mike had demonstrated, being able to take a piece of equipment in the field, code it to a cost code, to a job, and what we can then do is integrate that together by implementing some equipment rates, which could then also update your job cost in real time. And we can do that all in one shot when it comes to the payroll process. Now, if we're looking at this and we just want to look at labor, right? We had talked about field capture, cost coding, where we're at. We're even able to just isolate labor as a whole and just see where we're at when it comes to a job, the specific cost codes on that job, what we've estimated as far as dollars and hours, and where we're at today, and what do we have left. So then those alerts would then spark up, like for demolition on this project. I would then get a report and know, oh gosh, I'm over budget on demolition, why? And then that allows you to be more proactive than reactive. And in addition to the labor process, the reporting, being able to produce construction-specific billing. Once again, minimizing the need to do things in multiple systems, spreadsheets, Microsoft Word. You can also perform pretty much all your billings out of Foundation 2, where a lot of times I see people doing their billing, or this specific type of billing referred to as an AIA billing, doing that in Excel or tracking their retainage in multiple areas. Once again, efficient solution. We could do it out of one software, do all of our billing, actually produce the actual billing out of the system. So go ahead and toss that Excel sheet out the window and be able to do it right in one area. Where now these things are talking to each other, and this is going to overall increase a company's ability to improve on their project performance. So I just wanted to touch on some highlights. Definitely isolate the integration between WorkMax and Foundation, show you how easy it is to bring that data in, process your payroll, produce those reports, while also being aware of where your costs are at in real time without having to do multiple and triple entry. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Mike.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
All right. Shannon, were there any questions at this point?
Actually, we have a ton, and that's exciting. First question is this one's actually for Tom. I see that you have a projected cost report. Can you briefly show us how that works, and can you project payroll costs with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and, if you want to make me the presenter, Mike. And
yep,
sure.
I'm on it.
Thanks, Mike.
Hot potato.
Definitely. And the projected cost is something huge. And as we're talking about project performance and looking at a job as a whole, we do give you an ability to produce your own custom reports. And this is just one that I came up with that's been very popular, both from when I was working on the implementation side of the building as well as the sales side, where, companies like to come in, whether it be monthly, quarterly, even weekly, come in and project where their costs are going to be, right? So you have accounting dollars, and then this is kind of where you start to bring in some of the project management features or getting them involved, now having one system where they can come in and do their projections, where this is just a custom report that I created, and you could isolate this for labor. Mine's based on all costs, but you can technically project labor, materials, any level of cost, which now you're kind of grouping in more metrics, right? So you have to-date costs, estimated costs, and then that projected cost may be something that a project manager or operations manager is going to be forecasting, where then we can see where we're at as far as projected versus estimated versus actual, gauge those margins. You can even do projections on quantities too, where you can pull those into the report. And then, some people's definitions of projections are different than ours. So I always like to mention that this is one that I created. You can also create your own with your own ratios, functionality, but it's nice that it kind of pulls in both all those items that are real time from WorkMax, the estimated cost that will be in the system, as well as allowing people to do some projections or some forecasting.
That's great. Thank you, Tom. The next question is, this one is for Mike. Can we do a questionnaire in WorkMax with other things like policy changes?
Of course, yes. Yeah, that could be a custom form, and you could present it. Basically, you could enable it to certain employees or everybody. You could make that available on demand. So for today or for the next week, but essentially we could present that to them when they go to punch in, and then they have to sign off and affirm that they have reviewed that and acknowledge it.
Perfect. The next question is kind of multi-tiered. Is Foundation desktop or cloud software?
Thank you, Shannon. It's actually either or. So for those that would still like a solution that they can host themselves on their server in their network, Foundation is available via an on-premise solution, as well as a cloud solution as well for those that want to do something more cloud-based where they don't have to really rely upon their server. It's available via the cloud as well. And the nice thing about both options is it's the exact same product. So it's not going to be different features for the cloud versus the desktop. And I would say if I had to put a number to it, I'd say close to 75% are going to be, what I've seen lately have been cloud solution purchases. So it's definitely something that's popular on both ends.
Okay, thanks, Tom. This one will be for Mike. How do you do clock-ins if the crews go to multiple jobs in one day?
Okay, so basically with the WorkMax application, you never have to clock out. You can just clock in consecutively and it will end the previous shift. So that's one way. So as you're going, pretty common, a lot of maintenance contractors or people doing service work, they just clock into the next project. Travel can be one of the cost codes or phases. So if they're tracking travel time from one site to another. And then there's a second option where they can just clock in the morning and out at the end of the day, and we call it allocation. In the interest of time, won't have, we can do this in a custom presentation for anybody, but kind of go through, but we can break up those shifts at the end of the day into 2 or 3 or 4 cost codes, 2 hours apiece for 8 hours or whatever, do it by crew. So yeah, very easily done. Can that be done in the mobile app or through the cloud, either one.
Perfect. Tom, can they do billings out of Foundation?
Yeah. So we touched on AIA billings. That's definitely something that's pretty popular in the construction arena. You can also do lump sum billings out of Foundation. So for those that need just a basic invoice or a line item driven invoice that's non-AIA driven, that can be done out of the system, as well as unit price based AIAs, and then the ever popular time and material billing, which would allow you to do markups, labor rates, equipment rates, quantity rates, and actually leverage a lot of the things that WorkMax does on the labor entry part, where then you could automate that billing process through time and material. So yeah, all of the above, and service billings too.
Perfect. Let's see. For the timekeeping, is the company issuing one phone or iPad per job, or a phone is it issued to each individual employee to log in? And then they said, I assume all equipment is barcoded and each has a GPS chip.
So the first question, there's a few there. Yeah, you can have a device mounted, could be a tablet from Walmart if you want. I mean, because it's Android or Apple native. One of the other things, our application works offline completely. So you don't even have to have a connection to collect data, just to synchronize it. So if you need a hotspot or something at the end of the day, wherever that device is mounted, you can collect data, and you can also allow it to be on people's mobile devices or multiple tablets on a project. So there's really no limit. You do have control over where the app has access to the data and the system. So basically anywhere you need it. As far as the barcoding, absolutely. The GPS chipset, at WorkMax, we don't provide those directly. There's a lot of vendors that we work with, we have mutual customers with that provide solutions like that, telematics and other things directly. But on our side, it's assignment, tracking, history use through barcode or selection, just not the onboard GPS.
Okay, thanks, Mike. This one's for Tom. Is there a work in progress or an over/under billing report in Foundation?
Yeah. So one of the other popular reports that takes a lot of time, whether you're using a spreadsheet or trying to put it together another method, would be, work in progress over under billing, where out of the system, we're going to be tracking all that revenue like we talked about with the billings, the costs, so that if any point in time a company needs to produce an over under billing report, whether it be for the bank, a bonding company, their CPA, it's something that's going to be very automated in the system where you're going to be able to track your change orders in here too, track all your costs. So these reports are going to be real time, and you can run this for a month, a quarter, whatever you want, and it also has an ability to update the general ledger as well.
Perfect. Let's see. If a supervisor enters time for a crew on a job site, can they add time to their timesheet if they have to stop at another project on the way home? Mike?
They absolutely can. Yep, it's a privilege you can give to anyone you want. There's also edit marks and an audit trail of how that time was collected, by who, when, which device, where were they at. So we give you all of the data with that. So if there's anything you need to confirm or verify, that's all in there. But yes, they can add that time after the fact, and that capability is given by privilege to an individual or to somebody in that role.
Perfect. This is a question for Tom. There's a foundation customer looking for a projection report that shows committed versus committed to date. Is that possible?
Yeah. So, there's going to be committed cost reports in here. So the data is going to be in the system. So you could see potentially, all of your commitments, any change orders associated with it, what's been invoiced to date, paid to date, retainage to date, what's left over. And you can show that, as a whole for a job. You can get into each specific cost code and show that. And if you're looking to have some projections here too, all that information resides in the system. And you could technically create even a custom report out of our report designer that could pull in all that information. So if it's something that's just strictly projected committed, with our report designer, you're going to have that whole field here where you can either break this down by job, cost code, category, and then you have an ability to access all those committed dollar numbers, as well as access all the projections too, with the actual report designer. So that would be something that you would probably more than likely build custom, but it's going to be very easy to do with the drag and drop report designer.
Okay. Another question for you. They were asking if you could send them your projected cost report.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the cool things about the report designer is I can actually export the Foundation Genie file and send that directly to them. So if they want, they can reach out to me directly. My contact information is tjg@foundationsoft.com. I can send that directly to them.
Perfect. Thanks, Tom. We're trying to get, we have a few questions. I'm trying to get through as many as possible. Just a few more. Does WorkMax track vacation, time off, sick time? Mike?
Yeah, so right here in the mobile app, one way that this can be done, and you'll notice PTO on here for 8 hours for these 2 days. In the mobile app, it's tied to overhead. What you'll also notice is in the control center where I have batched, you see regular, overtime, double time, but you'll see here vacation, sick, holiday is populated in this particular case, 8 hours for David Smith. So those proper rates, they don't impact overtime. Obviously, they're exempt. You'll notice here, because I process this time, I've got some overtime, some double time here, a premium. Everything's processed according to the same rules as Foundation. So when we send that back over to Payroll for Construction or to Foundation, it will have that proper pay rate to that time that was collected on the mobile device also. So, all right. Anything else, Shannon?
Yeah, there's more. Just a question if Foundation has an estimating module.
We don't currently have a proper official estimating module. So you can either import your estimates from a third-party estimating platform, ProEst, ConEst, anything that's industry-specific. You can import that directly into Foundation, whether you're using a homegrown solution or a third-party. We feel that those are going to be more industry-specific, more so than, hey, here's our estimating module, hope it works for you. So we more leverage the importing capability.
Okay, thanks. Mike, there's a question. Do you handle half-time overtime in WorkMax?
We can have special overtime rules, yes, and those can be unique to a project, to, again, a certain cost code or phase or category. So, yeah, we can customize overtime to trigger the proper rate. We're basically going to tie that rate code to that shift and pass it off to foundation or pay-per-foot construction so that the proper rate's applied. So.
Okay. Well, we just want to be conscientious with everyone's time. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Any of the questions that we didn't get to, we'll make sure that either Tom or Mike follow up with you and provide you the answers, or maybe we'll do like a question doc and then everybody can see the answers in case they have similar questions. And also wanted to let you know, if you wanted a recording of this, in the next day or so, we'll be sending out the recording to everyone that attended and anybody that registered for the webinar. And then feel free to, ping back with any questions. Tom's contact information and Mike's will be, in the video that you guys will all receive. Thanks so much for your time, and you guys have a great day. Thank you.